You are live on 98.9 Northwest FM. I'm Nathan, always joined by Alan. How you going, Alan?
Good, thank you. Happy to be here.
Good. I'm joined by Callum. How you going, Callum?
Pretty good.
And we're also joined by Pete Williams, filmmaker extraordinaire, to talk about his latest movie, Emotion is Dead. This is the Tuesday review. How you going, Pete?
How you going, guys? Good to be here.
We're so happy to have you on the show. It's a great privilege for us. Like I said, we like to champion Australian cinema and honestly just directors in general. We love talking to people about the things they're making. And we've done a few of these, but it's always a privilege for us to get someone talented in the studio for once. Not just us complaining about whatever movie we've gone and seen. Talking to someone who's making things.
Nice.
But I feel like we bury the lead a little bit when we talk about we're here to talk to Pete Williams about Emotion is Dead. You've actually had a bit of a career before this film. Do you just want to give us and the audience an introduction to who you are and what brought you to this point?
Yeah, so I've been making movies professionally for 15 years now, I think. I've spent 10 years in London and 5 years in Los Angeles. And I started as a commercial director, had a bit of success at Cannes Lion Film Festival, which is the advertising equivalent of Cannes Film Festival. And then I had a Channel 4 show. Channel 4 is like SBS in Australia.
Yep.
It's the UK version, about makers, about craftspeople around the world. And then I've done a bunch of TV, and I did a feature documentary in 2015 to 2020 time, 5 years full time, called The New Breed, about social entrepreneurs. And Emotion is Dead is my debut narrative feature film.
Fantastic. Which leads straight into our first question. So this is an independent feature. What hurdles went into producing Emotion is Dead, and what lessons did you learn from making this one?
And first, what's it about?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to start talking about it. Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone. Just
take a breather.
Yeah,
We do have a
I have a
YouTube
million
exclusive clip that we filmed at the actual one of the tour screenings here in the FOMO cinemas in Brunswick East. So there's a little more information there as well. I think Callum's relying on that background right now.
Yeah,
but
no,
in case you haven't,
because I've been thinking for the last couple of days all these questions, and I'm so excited. So I apologize. Can you please give us an introduction to Emotion is Dead?
Definitely can. So Emotion is Dead is a drama film, a thriller film, that centres around the closing of the Holden factory in Elizabeth, South Australia, which was Australia's very last car manufacturing plant. And it's a story about the economic and social impact that closing had on Elizabeth, which is where I'm from, told in a Tarantino-style, very violent crime thriller.
Fantastic. Can you talk about how your real-life experiences may be infused into the narrative, drawing the inspiration, like the people you might have known who were impacted by this directly?
Yeah, so the hero of my film is Brock. He's a 17-year-old boy whose father worked at the Holden plant in Elizabeth. And when we meet Brock, he's suffering some kind of trauma connected to the Holden factory, but we don't really know why. And his dad's not really on the scene, and we're not really sure why that is. And this is very representative of my life growing up in Elizabeth. My uncle Ian worked in the paint shop for 30 years or so. 4 of my best friends from high school went on to work at Holden's, and I could see firsthand how their lives were impacted when that factory closed down. And it wasn't just the loss of jobs, it was the loss of pride we had in making those cars. Like, Elizabeth is now the lowest socioeconomic suburb in all of Australia, the cheapest homes in suburban Australia. But it wasn't just the unemployment that hit us hard, it was like we made these vehicles that people love. Peter Brock was driving these vehicles, they were winning Bathurst, and we made them in our hometown with our hands, and it was our dads and uncles and aunties and mums that were doing it. So it really had a huge impact on me growing up and seeing firsthand how much that factory meant to us. And I was living in Los Angeles at the time when it closed down, and it felt like a death in the family. It honestly felt like there was some serious grieving that we all had to go through.
A loss of identity.
I think here in the studio, we went to school, the boys in the studio here, we went to school in Broadmeadows.
Yeah.
The station we're broadcasting from is in Hadfield. So we have, something similar. We had something similar, I should say, with the Ford factory in Broadmeadows.
Yeah.
And so it's obviously, now it's not a great socioeconomic area to be in. So this it connected with us on a similar level of disadvantage. Yeah, there are definitely parallels that we can appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things critics have said of the film is this is a very South Australian film. It's not going to travel. People aren't going to understand it. Who knows Holden's outside of Australia? but working class jobs in the developed world have been disappearing for 2 decades now.
Yeah.
We don't make anything anymore.
Well, it's interesting because last week, I should say, not earlier this week, there was all kinds of concerns about Intel collapsing in on itself because the chips were bad and, like, you know, the CEO was tweeting out biblical scripture on Twitter and that type of thing. And so I'm like, this movie is kind of timely in the sense that, I mean, if you're working at Intel, you're a white-collar employee most of the time. But, like, an industry can collapse and then everyone involved is out on their ass. It's not just cars. There are so many industries in the world that are, you know, teetering on the brink. And you never know. You know what I mean? It's like, it's an Australian film. I think that if you're an Aussie, you can get a lot out of this. It's not just specifically South Australian. Yeah. Because like I said, we have parallels. But I'm sure no matter where you come from, there's a parallel. Whether it's a factory shutting down that's unrelated to cars. It's all the same thing. The loss of dignity, identity. Yeah. Just your career, you know what I mean? If you work for a company for 30 years and then that company disappears.
It's almost like the sense of promise when a lot of these individuals were really young, kind of finding their careers of, hey, come to this area, we've got this new plant running, it's going to be your future, possibly your children's future, you'll retire here, it'll be your whole community. And then, you know, eventually it's a rug pull. Like you've worked so hard, you've established your life here, and then say, sorry, your job's gone. Like, here's a little bit of money.
The movie
no hard feelings, right?
Yeah. The movie ties that together too with those lovely adverts you see during the film of like, this is the promised land. Come to this village.
Almost documentarian the way it's presented. We really appreciated that. You can tell your experience comes through with those edits, like that little. And but where did you make those clips, or were they drawn from archival footage?
Yeah, so there's about 5 minutes of archive in the film. And it's 3 main sources. It's old Holden's commercials. Yep. That's how it starts. We love football, meat pies, kangaroos, and Holden cars. And then it's housing trust promotional videos, which occur 3 times through the film, which was the South Australian Housing Trust. So the government built housing, wanted to advertise to British working class people, £10 poms, to get them over to Australia to work in our big manufacturing plants. The General Motors Holden plant being the biggest one. And that was made in 1969 and is cinematically gorgeous. So that exists. I didn't have to create that. Yeah. That was amazing. And the last one was the Bathurst of 1979.
Yeah. So the first question I was originally going to ask, before I derailed everything.
That's something about live radio. We don't prepare beforehand.
Good.
We just get in here and like, let's just see where it goes.
We do a little bit of preparing, but then I get excited and I ruin it.
It never goes to plan when it's live.
So yeah, this is an independent promotion. You didn't have the backing of huge studios to make this film. Yeah. What were the hurdles that went into producing it, and like the lessons you might have learned that you could take going into your next film, if you do make a new film?
I will definitely make a new film, no question. But this is my first feature film, and I have a lot of buddies in London and Los Angeles and Australia who are much better filmmakers than me and have better scripts than me and haven't been able to make their film. And the reason that's stopped them is money. It's always the money. A low-budget feature film by Hollywood standards is $5 million.
Yep.
And as a working-class boy from Elizabeth, there's no family connections. There's no way I can even think about getting that kind of money. So with Emotion is Dead, I wanted to make the cheapest possible film I could make. So that started with the script writing. I just cut out anything that had anything to do with post effects or, anything that was going to cost me money that I couldn't do myself. I limited the scenes, I limited the actors, and I did it for as cheaply as I possibly could.
And let me say, I think that actually improves the film so much, because I find that like we whinge a lot about big Hollywood movies on this show, because like most of the movies we see are the big blockbusters and all the CGI laden, things. All the movies in the 90s and previous, they didn't really have CGI, so they had to make it with their hands.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the really good movies, because you couldn't take shortcuts. We complained a lot about the Marvel movies because they have there's a million versions of this film with a million different VFX, and they sit around looking at the different options. It's not a vision. It's a bunch of people deciding on what it should look like 100 times, and then they throw it all away. You know what I mean? And then there's the issue of not paying the VFX people, which we've talked about before. We won't go into that now.
Yeah.
But like when you take away VFX and you take away all of these expensive locations and all of that type of thing, it gets down to the characters. That's what make the film.
Yeah.
Which is why Emotion is Dead is so special. Well, at least was so special to us, is because you don't rely on big CGI production sets and this type of thing. It's just camera work and actors.
Yep.
Which is like what you need. I think we need that. Everyone needs that now to remind them what a film's supposed to look like. When, you know, we went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Deadpool 3.
And while it was nice, you know, it was just a cookie cutter Marvel movie, which, you know, review pending later down the road. But it's like Emotion is Dead makes you think about it longer because it's got meat on the bones.
Yep.
Whereas like these big tentpole movies, they're consumable, one and done.
We've talked about it for death, but they're not one and done films. They're movies as content that lead you to the next movie, that lead you to the next movie.
That's what I meant. It's like you
Yeah.
watch it and then you're like, okay, now I know what I need to know for whatever comes next.
Yeah.
Whereas Emotion is Dead is a single contained narrative, and it's like it's good for multiple watches because it's like, you know, it's about something. It's not just content. It's about a place, a people, a story.
So you say you wrote this in 3 weeks. Can you talk to how you managed to kind of, I guess they say writing is rewriting, and everyone we talk to says it took me 3 years to write this script. How did you manage it in 3 weeks?
Well, I've written a lot of scripts in my life, probably like 10 full feature film scripts that are sitting in PDF form on my laptop that will never get made. They normally take about 3 months, sometimes 6 months. But I was writing them in London and Los Angeles about British stories and American stories and people that I wasn't really 100%, I didn't understand as well as I understand Australian people.
You hadn't lived their experience.
I hadn't lived their experience. I'd watched their films and I understood, you know, film structure, and I read How to Save the Cat and all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't writing from a place of experience, personal experience. When it came to write about my hometown and my childhood, basically, and class struggle within South Australia where I grew up, and the places I grew up, it just flowed so authentically. All of the dialogue in every single person's mouth, low class, high class, working class, wealthy. I know those people. They're my family members. They're my school friends. They're my school enemies. So I know what they're going to say, what they're going to think, what comes next after that action.
There's that famous saying in writing class, you know, write what you know. And it gets thrown around a lot by people who don't really understand what that means. You know, that means like, you know, you get authors who only write legal fiction, or they only write Tom Clancy only wrote action stories, that type of thing. But it's like, I can't remember if it was Hemingway who said that, you know, writing's simple. You just sit in front of your typewriter and you bleed.
Yeah.
He didn't mean that literally. He meant you sit down in front of your typewriter and, in his words, you know, you tell the truth.
Yeah.
Like, what is the truth? The truth is like, you know, what you did where you sit down and you wrote who you are, where you come from, the stories that come from that community. I think a lot of people get, I mean, you know, we're not educated people per se in the studio. We have a bit of knowledge here and there. You know, Alan has a master's degree. You know,
He's educated.
He is educated. He's a published author. But we talk a lot about narratives on the show, and I think that it's important to always write something that's real, even if that's fiction, you know what I mean? Like emotionally real, which is what Emotion is Dead, ironically, you know, actually delivers on, is it's emotionally real.
Yeah.
You're not 16 anymore, you know, no offense.
Mentally.
Was it hard for you to get into Brock's head? Like how did you approach the different perspectives in this film authentically? Because it comes off authentic in the screen, you know, watching the movie. Like, did you have to be like, how would I feel if I was 17 or what have you?
Being a professional filmmaker is a bit of a Peter Pan lifestyle. You kind of don't grow up because you're stuck in your creative mind the whole time. And I've never had a girlfriend. I've never owned a house. I've never, you know, lived a lifestyle of an adult. I've always been broke and traveling the world and just trying to hustle and work out how life is. So I feel like I have a very young brain still. If you look in the mirror, you're surprised sometimes at the grey hairs and the aging face.
Yeah.
But when I was 16, 17 was a very traumatic time in my life. So it's going to be etched in my brain and my heart forever. When I was 17, my best friend from primary school took his own life. Unrelated to Holden's, but we all kind of grew up working class in kind of on the outskirts of Adelaide, on rural South Australia. And I went through a period of grieving and trauma and sadness and depression for maybe 2 or 3 years after that. At a very poignant time in my life when I was trying to work shit out. I was just trying to like understand how the world works. And then this happens on top. So I can tap into that very, very easily. How Brock feels throughout the whole of Emotion is Dead is how I felt in that time in my life, 17 to 20. So it's very easy for me to remember.
Yeah, I guess it's very easy for teenagers to feel lost and alienated, which brings us to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the only movies I can think of that has a predominantly emo soundtrack.
Yeah.
Do you want to describe to the audience what emo is and maybe is not? If we can have the definitive definition on the show, that'd be great.
Well, we tried to define it in the film. Remember that line? He goes, "Yeah, bro, Jimmy Eat World. No, that's not his name. That's an alias. It's an emo band. What's an emo kid?"
Yeah.
And then the line is, "It's kind of like a subgenre of punk, but a bit more introspective and in touch with his feelings a bit more." Shut up, get back to work. So I think that's it. I think it's like a derivative of punk rock. It has the same rebellious, angry energy, but the lyrics center around more looking inside of yourself rather than yelling at presidents and capitalism, and you're looking inside yourself and talking about what you're feeling a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love our sad boy music in the studio.
Sad boys.
That's it.
We went into this movie blind, as we said last week, and we came out with like a skater emo movie, punk anti-capitalist thriller, and we were just I mean, 5 stars, love it.
Yeah, I know. It was like tailor-made for us.
As soon as you see Brock kind of doing like the pool cleaning at the start
with Under Earth, yeah,
I was just like, oh, this is gonna be a good movie.
I have to say, I had a shit-eating grin on my face when that scene, because I've never heard Under Earth in a movie theater before.
Yeah,
and there were some older people sitting behind us, and I was like, I wonder how they're feeling right now.
It's a pretty heavy song,
which it is. That's a good album too.
Yeah.
My question for you is, how have you seen the reactions of people listening to this music who might not have been exposed to it? And like, what vibes do you pick up? Like, what do people tell you when you talk to the people about the soundtrack? Are they like, what on earth was that? Or are they interested in it? Well, like, that was energetic, and I've never heard that before. Like, and you get simps like me, of course. And they're like, oh, I love that stuff. But
well, we love it, but it's a very niche genre. Like, we're talking maybe 6 years in the history of the world, 2000 and 2006. Bands like Thursday, The Get Up Kids, Taking Back Sunday, Under Oath, they're bands that we know and love. I'm not sure about you two boys, but a lot of people don't.
These boys don't even know who Glassjaw is. Don't worry about them.
But one of the biggest... We've had a lot of 60-year-old plus people come to our screenings. I'm not sure why. I thought the film would skew young.
It's because the cars.
Probably the cars, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's who goes to cinema now. It's a lot of people who have more time on their hands. A lot of the young kids are on their screens. And the older people aren't addicted like the young ones are. But even these 50, 60, 70-year-old people said that soundtrack was amazing. Countless times.
I think cinema's interesting because it exposes to people and it makes music more accessible in a way that they wouldn't appreciate it listening to it without the visual component.
Yeah. I think it helps that you literally built it into the screenplay.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're watching it, it's contextualized. It's not just an album on Spotify. It's a part of how the character's feeling, and they can see that and understand it. So maybe it changes the context of the song, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So like what would be, some guy just listening to Screamo, and that's like, satanic or weird, or they don't understand it. Suddenly it's contextualized in a way they can empathize with.
Yep.
Which is, it's a good way to get people into the scene, but it'll be funny seeing 50-year-olds with the scene cut and not.
And to be honest, it's a very stupid thing of me to I put 14 emo songs, pretty big emo songs, into the screenplay. And it's not, as you say, it's not background music. It's actually contextualized in the scenes. They're singing along. The hairdressing salon is called Screaming Infidelities.
Yeah.
The lyrics are built into some of the handwriting on some of the notes. And I did all that before I got permission from the bands to use the songs, or before I got quotes on how much those songs are going to cost. So, biggest learning for me going to the next one.
I mean, it is bold as a feature film, your first narrative feature film, to essentially almost write it like a musical.
Yeah.
Because, like, you have scenes directly written for specific music tracks. We're also joined by Matt now in the studio from Car Talk. How you going, Matt?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Sorry I'm
Good.
late. Got
That's
caught
all
up with work, but we're here now.
That's all right.
I've been listening to you guys on the way in. So.
Speaking, I guess, more towards the filmmaking, you said this movie took 2 years to make.
To shoot.
To shoot, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, what were the struggles you found trying to make a movie like this over 2 years?
Well, I went in pretty naive. I had about $80,000 of savings in the bank at the very start. 2020, I came back from America, did a TV show, did a pretty big Amazon series that was pretty financially lucrative for me. Had 80 grand, and I thought I can make a feature film for that. There's been feature films made for less. And I thought I'll just do it with the crew that I had on the Amazon show. They were all pretty keen to make a narrative feature film. You know, we don't get many opportunities in Adelaide, so all the DPs and all the soundos are all excited for that. We'll do it on weekends. We'll get actors together and, you know, within maybe 10, 12 weeks, we'll probably have it done. So we did 4 weekends, 8 shoot days. And by the end of that time, the money was gone. As soon as you take out, you know, craft services, buying hard drives, paying, you know, petrol and, you know, all these little costs that are involved in production, it just disappeared. So I had to go and do some more work, make another TV show, come back. And then 2 years later, we eventually, after 40 shoot days, had it finished in the can.
Do you think that, we'll call it a little bit of naivety, I guess, for lack of a better word, but if you didn't have that naivety when you initially went in with the 80,000 and maybe you had the understand that it was going to cost you a lot more, would that have held you back initially?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the keys to being a good filmmaker is delusion. You need to not think about the realities of how many films actually do make their money back. Because the number's very low. Like I was at MIF Industry this weekend, and it's like 1 in 20 or less.
Look at I don't know if you've been following the news. Borderlands, that cost like $100 million, and it's made like $10 at the box office.
Yeah.
I'm barely joking, by the way. It's a huge problem. It could tank the studio.
Art is subjective, right?
That's it.
Like, how do you know beforehand what people are going to like?
Yeah, well,
and the whole capitalist side of like the whole getting your money back is so convoluted and confusing with film as well. There's sales companies involved, distributors, broadcasters. These are worlds that I have no real understanding of.
And what was it? Was it the Men in Blacks never made a profit?
yeah. So that's a complicated thing. The gentleman who wrote the screenplay for Men in Black has never received a check because on the studio's balance, it's never made a profit, but everyone made out like bandits.
Yeah.
So figure that one out, you know.
Except the artists.
Yeah.
The suits made out like bandits.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure you know more about that than us in the studio, having worked in the system. Like the studios have all kinds of ways they can cook their books.
Yeah.
Well,
you just got to be careful what rights you give away. Like when you make something and it's your own, and this is my own because I funded it myself with some help with a couple of producers, but it's ours. But now we're at the point where we have North American distribution, so I've had to sign a 40-page sales document or a distributor contract in words that I have no idea what they mean. Deliberately made to confuse me,
obfuscate.
So I stop reading it, and they can get away with the bulk of the money.
Do you get like a solicitor look over it, or you just be like, oh, I'm not signing anything unless it's a contract? Just
That's always their option. They're like, oh, you could get, a solicitor look at it for $300 an hour. It's always an option. It may be several hours, but that's up to you. That's probably what they say.
That's the thing, and like if it's $300 an hour, that's a very cheap entertainment lawyer.
Yeah, it's true as well.
If it's $1,000 an hour and it's 40 pages, how many hours is that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I can't afford that.
Talking about the finance of the film, you previously said you have plans to do revenue sharing with this feature film, with everyone involved in the production getting 1%.
Yep.
Do you want? That's a pretty radical move that we in the studio were very happy to hear. That people are getting paid. Do you want to talk about how you came up with that, and what was the reaction of the cast and crew? And maybe any producers who you might have shocked with that idea.
Well, I knew straight up that we weren't going to be able to make a feature film if we did it the traditional way. If we followed all the rules of the industry and the unions and that kind of thing, we had to do it ourselves. And I had to find collaborators that were just as excited as me to make a first feature film. And our model was simply, if you participate in this film, regardless of role, regardless of your responsibility, regardless of how many days you come and work with us, you will share equally in the film, the same as I am sharing. So there's about 100 people involved in the film: makeup artists, sound designers, actors, even people that gave us big locations. I couldn't pay them a day rate, so I made a contract, and they all get a share of not the profit of the film, which, as you know, profit is very rare for feature films, but the revenue for the film. We all share equally in the revenue for the film.
That's amazing to hear. How did were the cast please don't withhold, at your pleasure. But were the cast on board with that? Like, some of the actors you have, presumably they're working actors. How do they feel about doing something essentially for free, pending future funds?
Yeah, I think this is one of the best things about working in Adelaide, because there is very limited opportunity for feature film acting in Adelaide, and we have some amazing talent in Adelaide because of Fringe Festival, because of a bunch of other very strong operas and theatre clubs or groups in South Australia. But feature films aren't getting made there. And when a feature film does come in, and they do come in a fair bit, they bring their headline actors from overseas or interstate. If you look at the Royal Hotel, shot in South Australia, both lead actors are from the UK and the USA. So very rarely are the amazing talent in our state, and even Australia-wide, being used as leads in feature films.
Yeah.
So once they read the script, and once I had a chance to have a coffee and explain the situation and share my passion for it, there was nobody that said no. Everybody was down.
I think, coming from somebody that's partners from Adelaide, the people in Adelaide are really, they'd be out of all the people in a show probably most open to something like that. And it's like the Foodland ad, the Mighty South Aussies, they're very proud of being South Australian. And it's really good to see that everyone that you said to, they'd be on board with that. That's actually really, really cool.
Yeah. There is a bit of shame about being South Australian too. There's a bit of a small town mindset, a bit of an inferiority complex.
Well, you're lucky you're in a studio with boys from the Northwest. So.
Oh, that's
right there with
We're
you.
from the northern suburbs.
Yeah.
Ain't no money here.
Broady boys for life.
We understand.
In terms of... Sorry, Nathan.
No, you go on.
In terms of the talent you worked with, you were very lucky to work with some very talented, very creative people, some, big people. The movie looks incredible. It looks like you had a budget 100,000 times more than you did. Can you talk about the challenges of shooting on a budget but making it look so nice? Because I have to tell you, we didn't know anything about the film. We knew it was an independent feature, but I thought we were watching a Hollywood movie. At least from my perspective. Were there any sacrifices or compromises that you had to make to kind of get that look?
Well, firstly, I have to shout out my cinematographer, Johannes Lyons-Reed. He did such an amazing job with very little. He and me were pretty much the only full-time filmmakers on the set. Everyone else, camera assistants, gaffers, lighting assistants, were all either film students or recent graduates from film school with very limited experience, even focus pullers and clapper loaders and everything. So Johannes basically had to lead the whole camera team. And he was setting up lights, he was putting up C-stands while trying to find the frames. So he did such an amazing job. And one thing I think that helped with him to make those shots perfect in every single scene is we shot over 40 days. When you could probably shoot this over 3 weeks. But we took the time. We had time. Time didn't cost us anything. So we just took the time to do it. And we didn't move the camera. One of the things we said is let's eliminate any obstacle to getting perfection, cinematic perfection. So let's just get a tripod, let's find a frame, and let's have action happen in that frame. So for the first 85% of the film, the camera doesn't move at all.
No shaky cam.
No shaky cam.
Again, if you ever listen to the show, shaky cam is the bane of our movie criticism life.
I'm not an old man, but I just want to see what's in focus. I don't want the camera to subtly move like it's on a ship.
Yeah, that's it.
You're like a voyeur or something. And I'm like,
I'm like,
I don't like that. I just want to see.
That is one of the things we noticed, and we actually talked about. We shouldn't talk during the screening, but we actually said, look at the camera's still, because there are some shots where there's a shot where you're following Brock skating, and it's as smooth as possible. And we were like, if it was any other director, it'd be shaking right along next to him. You know what I mean?
Quick cuts.
Like no quick cuts. It's
None.
like an old-fashioned film.
Yeah.
Which again is what we were so happy to watch, because not only does it look like $1 million, it has that physical feeling. Was it shot on film?
It was shot on Canon C70 4K digital, but what gave it that filmic look was a very good grade. So we did the grade here over 8 days in Melbourne. So that's a substantial grade for our budget level. And yeah, he just really pulled the colours out of everything and made it look amazing. And then we put a film grain on top.
Yeah, the film grain. Yeah, that's why I asked, because we were watching, we're like, oh, it looks so nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of all the questions I have about the movie. Does anyone else have a question before I pivot into a different direction?
I'm sure we can come back to that. We'll come back to questions on the movie, but we might go to a very quick break. We'll be back right after these messages. You are back on the Tuesday Review talking to Pete Williams about filmmaking and his new movie, Emotion is Dead. So I guess the other thing, this movie has a very big anti-capitalist kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Which we approve. No, not a question, just a statement. No, I'm kidding.
Not huge anti-capitalist, but it's definitely, it comes off as, because it has that emo culture in it, and emo and punk have always been kind of counterculture.
Yeah.
So it has a counterculture vibe running through it. I'm just like, how do you promote that to like, Australia is a very conservative culture when you actually look at the way we vote and you look at the way people think. Not everyone, but like, I think a lot of Australians are kind of more or less conservative.
Yep.
Like, how would you promote that to an everyday Aussie who, might vote for the Liberal Party or something like that? You know what I mean? Because we had
our friend Julian.
We had a conservative.
In his case, Nat's because he lives in the country, but
we had a conservative government for many years. You know what I mean? So it's like we're not a progressive country, in my opinion, not yet. So it's like, when you make a film that's kind of from a young person's perspective, a punk perspective, like how would you throw that movie to an older audience who might not understand it?
Well, I tried to veil my anti-capitalism as much as I could. There's actually a few scenes we cut where it's a bit more on the nose about anti-capitalism and like how corporations are mindless killers.
To be fair, it's hard to avoid when the movie is set in the backdrop of anti-capitalist
true, yeah.
behaviour with the factories shutting down.
The factories didn't shut down because they made too much money.
Yeah. But I think the themes I wanted to explore, and I tried to be as subtle with this as possible and just talk from a place of truth and fact rather than subjective opinion, is in Australia, we believe ourselves to be the lucky country where everybody is of the same class level and anyone who works hard can climb up and down that class level based on how hard you work. And my film wanted to explore how much of our success or failure in Australian culture is as a result of our hard work and our personal choices, and how much is out of our control based on our family wealth, the postcode we're born into, and things that are out of our control like disability or our employer leaving town.
Yeah, well, that's essentially what the question I was trying to go and get to, because it's a nice examination of that subject, because it's not always easy to escape.
No.
And then, you get judged based on where you work. If you own your own home, this like X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And so I guess it's good to have a local movie exploring those themes.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I also think there's so many people here that we know, and I know a guy that his dad worked for Ford's. He worked for Ford. He met Crazy John. I don't know if you remember guys, the telephone guy. He worked for Ford, which so many people know about at the plant in Broady, and they managed to get out. And it was like we need to get out of this. Where it's just generational,
Yep.
And it's hard. It's hard to do because your postcode, 3043 or whatever is like kind of a very integral part to you growing up, and it's huge where anywhere in the world, but in particular in your working class suburbs, because quite literally it's for a lot of people it's a cycle.
Yeah, and
it's just like they just copy paste, repeat. And especially with Fords and Holdens, you had a job for life, and people were like, well, I'm comfortable. Like I don't need to. Why would I need to change? Just do the same thing. Put this screw in, put that box on, done. And it is hard to get out of that that mindset.
And it comes down a lot to property ownership as well. Like property ownership is the way that a lot of people do climb the social ladder and develop independent wealth, and they can go on to develop more properties and get the elusive capitalist dream of passive income, which is getting income from somebody else's work, which is what rent is basically.
Yeah.
But when property prices are what they are now, and you need $200,000 at a bare minimum to get a shitbox anywhere, what young person can afford that without family wealth? So it's creating two classes in our society, those that have property and those that don't have property. Yeah. And it's it's a generational inequality.
Yeah. And there's a line in the movie that addresses that with Hunter talking to Brock, and it's like, how do I escape? You get $1 million and you can escape.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
It's easy.
And that's kind of almost a catalyst for the film, basically, that conversation. It sets off events that happen in the film.
And it's funny because it's almost like gravity. Like if you're born in a certain place, it's like you have to really pull to get out of it.
Yeah.
And then even if you get out of it, there's that other thing. It's like, well, am I going to be alienated from where I grew up? You know what I mean? Like, will I be able to talk to people the same way?
Yeah.
Will you be able to connect with people the same way?
Exactly. Are you going to be able to relate to people if you can escape?
Yeah.
Even while you're, I guess, on the way, maybe making some moves, some people in the community can be like, well, look at Mr. Big Guy now. You're too good for us.
We experienced that at a microcosm level on our world premiere experience the other week. We went to a movie world premiere in the city, and it was awkward because we knew no one. They were all wearing like $1,000 suits, and everyone was so tall. And we're just like, we're like gremlins from the northern suburbs. We're like, should we be here at all? I don't know that we should. We got invited, but...
But see, that's a good point. Like, Australia's really... Like, we've got a big issue with tall poppy. Like, it's a massive issue. Like, as soon as you start to go anywhere, like, bring them down, you know? Like, so it's... I guess it's... Yeah, it's true, though. Like, it's... When you start making moves, what's he or she doing, you know, driving a car like that or doing something like this? You know, they're just from the north, you know. So it's a weird thing. Even if you're trying to get out, like people still try to bring you back.
Yeah.
There's actually a line in the film which addresses that when what's the character's name? Brock's friend.
Hunter.
Yeah. When he enters the poor place for the first time and he gets heckled, and we chuckled. We're like, that'll teach you, rich boy.
Yeah, I mean, there is a class divide, and like Brock feels very out of place at the pool party with all the rich kids. Yeah. And
that was awful to watch, I have to say. It was so uncomfortable to watch.
But then Hunter feels equally out of place when he goes to Elizabeth, and the poor kids are heckling him.
Yeah, that was our revenge. Get him.
I guess we'll move on. So you're road showing this movie essentially on an indie cinema tour.
Yep. How
How did you come up with that idea, and like were the cinemas kind of receptive to that? How was that organized?
Yeah, what conversations did you have?
Like it's such a unique idea to kind of, I guess, get people seeing your film.
Yeah, I think it's the only way that I could do it. I was at Berlinale in February, and I was meeting with a bunch of distributors and sales agents and exhibitors, and I met with one guy that runs a couple of cinemas here in Melbourne, the Lido and the Ritz in Sydney. His name's Ed, and I said to him, how do I get my film in your cinema? We don't have a distributor in Australia, but it's a cinematic film. I want people to see it. How do I do it? And he said, the only way you can really do it is if you put on event screenings, which means a screening that's like a one-off event per cinema, and they have to be a bit special somehow. And you make it special by coming yourself or bringing your cast and crew, doing a Q&A after the screening, and anything else you can think of that's like a value add. If you do that, I will show it in my 4 cinemas, 3 in Melbourne, 1 in Sydney, and I'm pretty sure you'll find 20 or 30 other cinemas that will be happy to be part of that. So that's what I'm doing.
And we somehow, I guess we're on a list somehow, we got invited to one of these screenings.
That's kind of if I apologize, this is crass to ask you, but it's sometimes we get invited to things, and honestly, we have no idea why. So was it a PR person who's working for you who somehow found out about our show, or did you find out about our show? Like, how do we end up being invited to wonderful movies like yours and talking to people like you, because we don't understand it?
So I'm doing a lot of the marketing myself, but one thing I knew I couldn't do myself is the publicity. I don't have the contacts in the media. I don't have any idea how to write a press release or how to approach and get in an inbox or a phone call or whatever way they do it. So I engaged a PR agency to help with the release of the film with a tour, and they must have reached out to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You must have been on their list, yeah.
Oh, we're on a list.
Yeah.
Our elusive quest to find out which list and how we got on there.
So far, it's a good list. So,
Yeah, so far.
you know.
Yeah, take the free tickets to
that's it, yeah.
premieres.
Again, apologies. It's an awkward thing to say, but it amazes us that we get to talk to people like
That
you.
also circles back to our question. Like, it was good for us because we'd never been to the FOMO Theatre in East Brunswick. It's a lovely theatre.
It's cool.
Beautiful little theatre, yeah.
See our YouTube video for, I guess, a little peek at it. But
Have you been there, Matt? To the FOMO Theatre?
No, I haven't actually. I'd love to go.
I think it's relatively new.
Yeah,
Do you know what it's themed after? The style?
like, it's kind of 80s and,
Yeah.
vintage kind of 80s colours and...
What film is it?
Ooh.
No idea.
All the neon signs are taken from a film.
Oh, pressure's on. I wasn't paying enough attention.
Yeah, we were paying. I was too busy looking at the movie posters where it has Brunswick in the title. So
Instead of Chinatown.
Yeah.
Instead of Chinatown, it has Brunswick.
what's
No
it
one can
themed
you
after?
scream in Brunswick.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, nice.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have to say, Matt, it's like the nicest cinema because like it has like really nice seats, and then you've got like a tablet that you can order food on and stuff. And it's anyway, we go to our little rat hole and watch our movies. Apologies.
What's your local here?
Broadmeadows Hoyts.
Hoyts. Yeah.
that's the
Oh no,
closest.
it's actually a lovely cinema.
The corporate monster that is Hoyts, though. So.
Yeah.
Do they play art house films?
No.
No.
We wish they would.
No,
They play Bollywood movies. If you're
Okay.
into Bollywood.
Yeah.
No. So they used to play art house films. I just want to set the record straight here. I think management changed because there was a few years where they would play like random art movies. Like we were lucky enough to see Mother. Did you ever see
Oh
Mother? by
wow, that's
Aronofsky?
very art house.
We saw Mother there. We saw Lady Bird there.
Oh cool.
There was a manager there who would play movies like yours and
Yep.
who would play A24 movies when A24 was a small studio.
Wow.
But that's not that way anymore.
Just the Marvels and the superheroes and
Yeah,
the
and the
IP
Bollywood.
And the Bollywood movies.
And the
Bollywood.
Bollywood movies.
because of the local clientele, I guess.
We're
Yeah.
not. We're not
it's
against.
a demographic. We're not against
No,
it.
no. We're not against it.
it.
We've seen a couple of Bollywood movies at that theatre too, and they have the intermissions. We love the intermission,
Oh really?
especially with the long movies. The intermission is a great time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like it's a 3-hour film, so they know
That's
you're gonna
it.
need a break.
Especially if you're having
Go
a few
for it.
drinks before the movie,
Yeah.
and then you're like,
Also,
you need.
Bollywood kept Hoyts afloat. You know what I mean? Like,
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
like, at least our local. Like they pack cinemas out. It's amazing to see.
We've talked about it before. Our local cinema wouldn't be open without the Bollywood films being shown.
Wow.
Shout out to Bollywood distributors, I guess.
It saved.
Yeah.
It saved the cinema. So that's interesting.
So how do we make? I guess it's an Indian expat community. How do we make Aussies, like traditional Aussies, love cinema as much as that?
Who was the cricketer? Who was the cricketer who was in some Indian films?
Brett Lee.
Yeah, get Brett Lee to, yeah.
But again, I think cinema's part of Indian culture too. The Bollywood experience. They go as people go as a family unit. Like they take the kids. Everyone goes. It's you have to. It's a cultural thing. You have to somehow, I guess, make movies like Aussie culture again, which it's kind of not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you mind if we pivoted to some personal questions? Because we have
Please.
some questions we always ask directors.
Yeah.
You know, they're the cliche questions, so I apologize. Being a director of specifically focusing on this narrative film as opposed to your previous work, it's like, what are your biggest influences and like what impact did they have on you in the way you viewed How to Make Emotion Is Dead? Like your TV or movie influences, what have you?
Yeah. I'm a big DVD lover. I've got about 3,000 DVDs in a little room in Mum's house in Adelaide right now because I'm a bit of a nomad.
No, respect.
So I watch a lot of film. And it's not really one particular director or one particular filmmaker that I love. I kind of take a little bit here and there from everybody. Probably my favourite in terms of the themes he writes about is Ken Loach, British director. So he's like a socialist working class director that's been he makes a film every 2 years in the UK. He did The Wind That Shakes the Barley that won Best Picture Academy Award. But he really inspires me in terms of what I want to talk about, and that there is space in a capitalist commercial marketplace, theatrical marketplace, for films like that. And then stylistically, I mean, for Emotion Is Dead, have you guys heard of Mike Mills?
No.
He did Thumbsucker.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
He did, I'm blanking now. Francis Ha, I'm pretty sure was his.
Francis Ha is
Fred-
Noah
that's-
Baumbach.
No, Baumbach.
Yeah.
No, so he did, what's the black and white one with Joaquin Phoenix in it? About the dad and the kid.
Oh, Oh,
Come on.
Oh, it's pop quiz
No,
time. No, I'm not.
Come on.
it's
No,
fine,
it's cool.
it's
Come on.
Oh,
Yes, I'm pretty sure he did that. But the film that stood out to me is a style that I really wanted to honor and replicate, and was simple but beautiful, was 20th Century Women. And so he had some pretty famous actors in that. He makes a film for about $5 million every 5 years. You'd call it art house, but there's celebrity talent in it, and it always makes their money back.
yeah.
So his shooting style.
He's almost like the English Woody Allen in a way. Kind of limited money, but always he makes a movie every couple of years. It always somehow makes us money back. People work with him because he's an artiste.
Yeah. And he's a skater punk rather than
excellent.
a neurotic New Yorker.
What's one lesson, and I know this is kind of repetitive, but it's like, what's one lesson you've learned during your whole career that you wished you'd learned earlier? Like a lesson that came late that you're like, oh, if only I knew that. Like, what advice would you give to younger filmmakers or people trying to break in that was like that key in the box for you?
Yeah, I think the first maybe 10 years of my filmmaking career, I always thought there was going to be a Superman that was going to come in, whether that's a producer or a studio, and say, man, you got some talent. I'm going to give you a bunch of money and guide you through the process of making films. That never comes, and that still hasn't come.
It's a very shark in the waters industry, isn't it?
Yeah, and you got to just do it yourself. You got to just pick up what your dreams are, what the content you want to make, and you got to go out there and do it. Sometimes people get a hand up, but 99 out of 100, the people I know who have made feature films have just gone out and done it themselves.
Yeah. And I've got two more of these cliche questions, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Gut feeling, like gut feel. Favorite movie of all time, go.
Back to the Future, number 1.
Not bad. All right, favorite emo band, go. Gut feeling.
Jimmy Eat World,
Hey, not bad.
Bleed American.
Good, yeah.
Early Jimmy Eat World.
That's the correct answer.
Static Prevails.
Oh man, we saw them when they toured with Mychem in Australia. They
So
were so
good.
good.
So good.
But they performed like an hour each, so it wasn't like support and main,
Oh,
and it was amazing.
Yeah, honestly, I've never been so happy.
it's just really good music.
Yeah.
And they sound like so good live.
Yeah.
Like you could tell it was live, but his Jim Adkins vocals,
Yep.
solid.
Solid.
Um,
Couldn't afford it for the soundtrack, though.
No.
yeah, half a million for the middle.
Was it $500,000 or was it 50?
It's worth that.
Worth that,
It's
yeah.
worth that, yeah. It's a great song.
That's crazy. Pivoting back to the film. So,
Sorry, Pete. This is just the way we work.
I love it.
This is community radio for you, Pete. Pivoting back to the movie, what's next for the movie? So you've got national distribution or international or North American distribution.
Yep.
So where is it going after it's finished its kind of indie cinema roadshow? What's the plan for the film next? Where can people see it?
Yeah, so we have North American distribution. That'll go straight to streaming over there, but it's going to be, looks like it's going to be a pretty big streamer, probably a second tier streamer, like a Stars or a Showtime, something like that.
Congratulations.
Like a Disney product. In Australia, we don't have distribution yet. Umbrella, I spoke to Umbrella, which is a big distribution company here, focusing on horror and thriller, and they are interested to release it digitally, which means getting on a broadcaster and then a streamer. And I have a worldwide sales agent that's also having those discussions now with your Stans and your Netflixes and your Amazons. So it's up in the air. It's out of my control because we have a sales agent now. So I'm talking to them about the conversations I'm having at MIF and these places.
Does that make you more relaxed, or does that make you more on edge to have it out of your hands?
I'm not a business person at all. I'm very bad at that kind of stuff. So it's a relief to be able to hand it over. And you just have to have faith in people that they don't take on too many films and your film gets pushed to the bottom of the pile, or they take an offer that's less money but it's easier. You got to have faith that they want the best for your film. And at the moment, these guys look legit. So that's good.
So, like, as a film buff yourself, when you buy a DVD, it's always nice when you have the extras and, like, the featurettes. Like, is there any material that we can look forward to on a Blu-ray or anything like that for Emotion Is Dead? Are there any little things you've snuck in there?
If it gets a physical release.
I should say a caveat.
It will get a physical release. I'm going to demand a Blu-ray because I'm such a physical media lover.
Yes.
Books,
Yeah.
records, DVDs.
James somewhere in Europe just rolled over and he's like, damn it, why am I angry? Because he can't be here.
Apologies to James.
He's the physical. He's the guy with his house. It has like the room of Blu-rays. He's our massive film nerd.
I was so disappointed for James that he couldn't be here for your film because I think honestly he would have absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I'll send him a link.
Honestly,
he'll appreciate that.
he would love that so much.
But seriously, like, they take your content off the streamer. Like,
Yeah.
I made I don't want to say the budget, but it's a very, very expensive documentary series for Disney Plus called Fearless about AFLW football. Very well produced, very well received. Critics loved it. No longer available on Disney Plus. Just gone.
Yeah, that's insane.
Why?
Yeah, I was going to say, why is that? Like, why do they do that?
Well, we're guessing, but it could be a tax write-off. They can say we're making a loss on this because it's no longer.
The old HBO special.
Yeah,
Yeah, when they don't release that Batman movie.
exactly. It's a loss.
And Tom and Jerry and whatever that movie was, they just don't release it.
That was one thing I was gonna say to you after you mentioned the distribution, was that like we're big fans of physical media because once you have it, they can't take it away. They're not going to break into your house to take it off your bookshelf
Not
or,
yet.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
That's coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-destructible disc, like Mission Impossible style.
You buy a
Yeah.
disc that has 100 uses on it.
Yeah.
Don't
License on a
discount that.
disc, yeah.
Yeah, better not say that. Better cut that out.
There's execs listening. They're like, write that down.
Well, car companies are doing that with, you want to. Your car's got heated seats, but
The Tesla.
Pay a
yeah.
subscription.
but you pay a subscription
Or
for
we
it,
turn them off.
and otherwise we'll turn them off for you.
That's insane.
But anyway, I'm sorry, boys, but like I said, are there any special features we can look forward to?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, so I've got a 10-minute featurette, which is interviews with cast and crew, talking about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, because it's a pretty crazy shoot. Like, we were just winging it a lot of the time, and there was guns and amputations and blood, and so a lot of things happened that are quite interesting. So that's on our featurette, and we have some behind-the-scenes video and photos that go along with that.
Yeah. Oh, and for Matt who hasn't seen the film, it's all done. All of the stuff he's talking about, it's in camera.
Yeah, there's no
So-
CG in this movie.
None.
So it's all visual effects and practical
How good is
effects.
that? No,
Yeah,
I love hearing that because it makes it feel. It just feels better. You're like, oh, it's not like another big ass explosion that's going crazy.
We recently watched a myth movie called the Demon Disorder,
The Demon Disorder.
Okay.
Yeah.
and it's New South Wales, Queensland kind of body horror,
Yeah.
all done practically.
Nice.
Yeah, oh man.
And it's like a tight 90 minutes, but it's insane.
one of the
And it was
creative-
made for like no money
Yeah.
by the director is like a practical effects guy. And he's
Yeah.
like, I want to make a movie, and it's going to be about demons and possession, and it's like all body horror, all done practically, and it makes you more uncomfortable than if it was CG
Totally.
because it looks real. People can tell the difference.
Well, this is an interesting thing to bring up with you because you are an Australian director. Australian cinema feels like it's in such a good place at the moment. All of these movies we're seeing, indie movies like One Punch, Astro Loco, Residence, Your Film, they're all really interesting movies. There are so many directors who feel like they're going places. Is that just because we're like Umbrella is now releasing more content, or there's more people taking risks? Has it always been that way? Like, to us, it's just up and coming. Australia's back again. Like, how do you feel about the Australian scene at the moment?
TV as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels like a new wave of filmmakers is coming through. Like, we're almost like passing the baton on from the Peter Weirs and, these guys that were heroes for us growing up. And there's this whole new generation of filmmakers that they're first timers that you've never heard of before, making awesome stuff.
Well, the guys that did Talk to Me did YouTube videos before
Yeah.
they did Talk to Me.
Yeah, they're from the northern suburbs of Adelaide too, represent.
Yeah, there you go. So it is an exciting time. Bird Eater as well is one of our favourite movies released last year.
You seen that?
Again, yeah, we interviewed one of the directors.
Jack. Bird Eater was an amazing
Yeah,
movie.
again,
Nice.
a limited budget. They
Yeah.
troubles and tribulations on the set,
Yeah.
but just an awesome thriller. So you're in esteemed company at this point.
Tell me, the end of Bird Eater, what happens? When it cuts to black, what the hell happens?
No, we don't want to necessarily do spoilers. We'll talk about it up the air, but I think it's a good ending. I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, my feeling was it was.
If I'm remembering correctly,
It's designed to be ambiguous, but I like to think it's an optimistic ending.
also
Does she get the hell out?
I like to.
I
Think
like
so.
to think she did, but it's like the Sopranos ending. It's like you're not supposed to. Did he not?
Yeah.
Did she not?
When it comes out, Alan, I'm going to take you to see it, and you're going to think we'll call him the Trevor aspect of the guy, the Grand Theft Auto kind of bad guy.
Yeah.
He's gonna appreciate him the most, and I'm gonna laugh. It's a movie about toxic masculinity, basically.
Yeah.
And you're gonna take all the wrong lessons from it.
Those are some guys I want to party with.
Yeah, Alan's gonna sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah, man, Australian cinema. Yeah, it's exciting time to be a film critic in Australia. Actually,
Yeah.
Especially with being invited to things, being able to see these movies.
I'm seeing Flathead tonight. Have you guys heard of that?
No, it's on our list
Yeah.
of things we were privileged enough to get sent to us,
Oh, nice.
but we haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
You got the screener?
Yeah.
Oh,
we got
cool.
Screener. Yeah.
Because it's docudrama.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so again. We're so interested in behind the scenes stuff. You were saying they pull screeners off files off of streaming services.
Yeah, so they pulled my Disney show off of streaming services. And if you look at my DVD collection, so there's 3,000 DVDs, maybe 50 of those, 100 of those will be available on a streamer right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
with arty movies especially, they're harder to find.
yeah,
And it takes a while to find.
Yeah, we've been we invested in our own media server at home, and so the last couple of days I've just been ripping our Blu-rays onto there. Because some of these films you can't get on Netflix or Stan.
No.
Even some have you seen Cinema Paradiso?
Yeah, so good.
That's an incredible movie, and I think you could get it on I think it was on the Criterion channel at one point,
Yep.
the American service, but it's not on Stan. You know what I mean?
No.
So I'm I don't mind watching Blu-rays, but it's so much easier to just turn on the Apple TV and
Yeah.
so it's being able to preserve your films in that aspect is so important.
Yep.
Because do you remember I was thinking about this earlier today when I was ripping some of our movies. Do you remember back in the day, they would give you a Blu-ray, but they'd also give you a digital version?
Yeah.
Was it the little
ultraviolet
purple?
or something.
Download card, yeah.
Yeah, I'm I kind of miss that. I think that wasn't integrated well enough into the purchase.
Yep.
Imagine if it was just an Apple TV thing. It's okay, I've bought this, so now I can just watch this on my Apple TV.
Yeah.
It's because you had to go to the website, and there was this whole rigmarole behind it.
We were just working stuff out, weren't we? For a long time there. Once Blockbuster closed, we're like, what do we do now?
Yeah. Oh, man, I miss Blockbuster. We talk about it sometimes on the show, just I'd love to just walk in Blockbuster one more time.
Yeah.
Get the smell.
Yeah.
The smell of the carpet, and then look at the spines and
Yeah.
the whole experience.
Sneak into the adultish section and be like, oh, wait. I'm
Sorry, Mum.
I need to sneak in
My
anymore.
bad.
Have you seen that latest art installation at the Immigration Museum in the city? The guys made a retro video store.
I saw that on Instagram, yeah.
It looks.
sick.
I'm going there tomorrow. I'm taking my students to go see it tomorrow.
Nice.
And they got
The old, we go on an excursion.
pretty much, yeah.
We're
It's funny for me.
We're faking what we're learning, and then we just go on the city. Yeah.
Well, it's funny for me, and I just want to get that. I want to get that nostalgia hit. I'm like, oh, man.
Because, what is this? And you're like, sit
It's
down.
for me.
Sit
You're gonna
down.
wait outside.
Yeah. Well, I was explaining to the kids what we're going to do and where we're going to go, and they're like, "Wait, you guys went to places to rent movies?" I'm like, "Yes, there was a time before Netflix. There was
There
definitely."
was a time before your iPad.
I remember when we were in
Skibbity
high
toilet
school.
or whatever.
Skippity toilet.
I remember when we were in high school, our IT teacher took us to the Grand Prix, and as soon as we got on the bus, he's like, "We're not learning anything."
This is, I guess, a little more personal question maybe for us, but also anyone else that might be listening is interested in film and television, at least the production side. You obviously spent a lot of time overseas, London, LA. What advice would you give to a person that, I guess, in Australia that maybe wants to get into the industry? Do you recommend they head out, or do you think there's something they could start in here?
It's difficult because I only know my experience, and my experience is I needed to get out, not just to leave little old Adelaide, but just to explore the world and have experiences and feel uncomfortable and not have a safety net. That all kind of forced me to be resilient enough to be a filmmaker, because you have to be pretty resilient. You get rejection every single day. You deal with, worrying about where your money's going to come from every single day. And living alone overseas without any support for 15 years, I think, prepared me for that. But it also pushed me through a lot of experiences of meeting new people, seeing how other people live, traveling the world and seeing poverty firsthand and wealth firsthand and how other countries do things. So it was just like a massive learning experience where you're forced to experience these things.
Yeah, Australia is also famously hard to break into. As any creative, Nick Cave famously, he couldn't really make it here, and then he only got big once he got big overseas. He got big in England, and then he got big in America, and then Aussies were like, "Oh yeah, I like Nick Cave too."
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was in my favor coming back from LA, and they're like, "Oh, you're the guy from LA. Okay, yeah, you can direct this commercial." It just, there's a credibility there. I guess it comes back to being, Australian and South Australian and thinking you're just smaller than, because we're so far away from a lot of the world.
I mean, also the Australian movie and TV industry isn't big anyway, especially with the decline of, say, free-to-air. It's definitely not what it was in its heyday. Even the streamers are somewhat limited. Like, you might have a few Aussie kind of, shows or movies on the streaming services.
Is Mr. In Between still on streaming service, or is that taken off now?
Oh, is it still on Binge? Is it on Binge?
It was on Binge last I checked.
Yeah, because that was great. Like, everyone loves that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, it's kind of, they're few and far between.
Correct, yeah.
So I'm like, I guess it would be hard to break out. But, it leads into, I guess, one of our last questions. We're running out of time. We're eating into mess time. What's next for you? Like,
If you're able to,
I guess, divulge any information. Do you have any other upcoming plans or projects?
Definitely do. So I was at Melbourne Film Festival this weekend pitching my new project. They have a program there called 37 Degrees South, if you're familiar. It's like an industry market. And I met with producers and buyers and distributors and sales agents and production companies on this screenplay that I've written, which is, again, Australian story. Again, a thriller in terms of genre, but it's a supernatural thriller. Do you want the pitch?
Yeah, you
We'd
can
love
give us a pitch.
Those listening, this is copyright material for Pete Williams. But essentially, it's backstory. There's a rural town in Australia that's really down on its luck. The school's closed, the cop shop's closed, the post office is closed. Everyone's leaving. The kids that go to school in the city never want to come back. So they have a crisis meeting about how to save the town. The council, the church bishop come together and they hatch a pretty crazy plan to save the town. They want to turn the little town into Australia's premier pilgrimage destination for religious people. But they need two things to make it work: a holy relic and a miracle, both of which they don't have. But they give it a shot, they make it work, and 6 months later, it's a massive success. My film starts 6 months later. It happens over a weekend. A young girl from the town is coming back to the town for the first time in 5 years. She wants to be a journalist and is determined to get to the bottom of, is this relic real? And are these miracles legit? And how far are the townspeople willing to go to stop that truth coming out?
Oh, nice.
That's brilliant.
I'm so excited already.
Yeah, so we're already excited.
Hot Fuzz meets Waking Fright.
Oh, nice.
Oh, man.
Anyone else have any last questions?
Matt's okay for us to keep going. So if Pete's happy to stay, we can just keep going.
You're not sick of me yet?
No, honestly, I mean, we could be here talking to you for like all night. So.
We can talk for hours. You don't
Should
have to
crack some Red Bulls.
That's it. No.
Just keep it going, fellas. Keep it going. Well, Pete, it was nice to meet you. I want to go set up for my own show. But you guys keep going and doing your thing. But yeah, lovely to meet you.
You too,
and,
man.
And good luck with it, man. And I'm keen to actually see the film. I've been really keen to see it.
I'll get you a screener.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
That'd be sick.
You're a Ford man, though, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah, but look, I'm partial to a Holden. I love a Maloo.
Okay.
I'd buy a Maloo. I love a Gemini, old Gemini.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, very partial to some Holdens. Definitely.
You respect an X9 Tirana?
Absolutely. Do. A mate of mine's uncle had an A9X, and
so good. A9, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. And that was just, it's especially now. Like, I think we all got as it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. Even the Valiant people from Tonsley Park and that.
Yeah.
Even the Mitsubishi people, believe it or not. We're all kind of that all went out the window when we lost manufacturing, I think. And now we're kind of like, Aussie cars are cool, and we respect Aussie cars. So,
and the price of Aussie cars is insane.
Going nuts. Like it's come down a little bit after COVID, but it's still still up there.
Yeah.
And every time I drive a few of my Aussie cars, I'm like, God, these things are great. Like why did we? Yeah, I know it was a whole government issue and a whole bunch of things, and it breaks your heart because, as I said, I know so many people that worked at Ford and for years.
Yeah.
Ford's was it was an institution here.
Yeah.
Especially in this part, as you guys would know, and people I work with still today, like, my dad worked at Ford for 50 years, 60 years.
Yeah.
Retired there, and but yeah, it's all the. I think you've touched base on it, but like all the little people that make the screws and the little people that do this, and like they all got affected, and the town's got really affected. So, I don't think the government realised how much of an effect it would have.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say that people in Australia are like putting that in light, and you're doing that on screen. It's mad props, because it takes guts to do that. So.
Well, the film's dedicated to the men and women who built Holdens.
Yeah.
It comes up at the end, and we've had grown men cry.
Wow.
As the credits roll, and they see that, because it meant so much to them.
100%.
They were so proud of what they made. And how many things do we make in Australia now that we're proud of?
Nothing.
Yeah, it's
quite literally.
Yeah.
I mean, your film.
Yeah, certainly not breakdancing.
Ooh.
But like the car industry here was such an important part of our culture. And it you said I was listening on the way in, like, it was like a member of the family passed away.
Yeah.
It quite literally was, especially here in this part of town for Broady, for Ford. It was quite literally, it was a death. It was absolutely a death, and we're glad that people could say, wow, this is such an important thing to me.
Yeah.
So spiritually, maybe that's why it had an effect on us in the studio, because it is directly relevant to us in a way.
And, like, everyone wants to be seen. They want to be understood. You know what I mean? So it's like, whether you're from Meadows, or you're from Adelaide, or you're from another industry, which is, everyone was laid off. It's important that people see that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And it's like, because it can affect anyone at any time. Any industry could collapse in a week, and we don't know about it now. But ultimately, it's people that's like grown men crying, because it's probably the first time they've seen themselves on the screen.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's not a normal film. Like most movies that you go to the cinema to see, they're just the big blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
It's not personal stories on the screen. And that's what this movie is to a lot of Australians, specifically Australians.
Yeah.
It's like, this is their story, which is so important to people.
And you're right, like not many people like that get their stories told.
Yeah.
And you doing that is just, it's really, it's a special thing. And it's all to be celebrated.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for me as well, it's like telling a working class story. Like, it's how many of our heroes are just the successful, the rich, the famous, the big, the powerful, the winners. How many heroes are the underclass, the underdog, the little
at least
guy?
The real stories, yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon that's almost all the time we've got for tonight. Where can people find your film right now while it's still on the indie tour?
Yeah, so we have 4 screenings left. We have Sydney coming up on Thursday the 29th of August. We have Perth and Fremantle coming up just after that in September. And then we're finishing up in Brisbane at the 5-Star Cinema in New Farm after that. I don't have the dates on me, but you can go to emotionisdead.com.au to find out all the dates and check out the trailer and all that good stuff. And then hopefully by the end of that time, we'll have some kind of distribution deal.
Hopefully. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Pete. Thank you so much for coming down and joining us tonight. And I hope people go and see a movie and visit some independent cinemas.
Yeah.
Again, shout out to FOMO Theatre in East Brunswick. And just go to your local indie cinema.
Support local cinemas, support Australian filmmakers.
Yeah.
You can find the Tuesday Review on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Newsmast at Tuesday Review AU, and on YouTube at Tuesday Review AU on all platforms. Thank you for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.